Happy Monday, Robert.
Happy birthday for me.
Today's your birthday?
Today is my birthday.
I didn't know that.
33.
You're 33.
Feels
Catching up,
feels
man.
feels great.
Does it?
It feels strikingly similar to 32.
Well, let's introduce. So, hello. It is Monday. This is episode 5 of the Brushback podcast. I'm here with birthday boy Bobby Stevens. Bobby, happy birthday officially.
Oh, thank you.
So let me give you the test that I give a lot of the kids that I work with, which is cream cake person or a real cake person on your birthday.
Am I you pressed some button, it bleeped out there. Am I a what
Sorry.
person?
Are you an ice cream cake person or a real cake person?
Ooh, real cake.
I knew you were going to say that because you and I are just becoming enemies more and more. Real cake
Ice cream cake is
just the
unrealistic.
wrong answer. It's the wrong answer.
Ice cream cake's unrealistic. It's unrealistic. You get ice cream with real cake.
First of all, it's not unrealistic. It's a thing that exists in the real world. It pretty
exists.
much always has, at least in my life.
No.
It's always been around since it was. I mean, I was eating ice cream cake as my official birthday cake since I was a kid. And regular cake is like eating a sponge. Like if I went to my pantry right now and I got a box of just granulated sugar, and then I took out my mildew smelling sink sponge and I sprinkled powdered sugar on it, that you'd have regular birthday cake.
Sounds delicious.
I know. But I give this test to kids. I mean, it's just like me breaking the ice and like getting to know people in my gym. And I had like this food questionnaire / quiz that basically just like lets me know if they're a sane human being. And
what other this or that do you have on that list?
Oh, it can expand. It's like usually a minimum of 4 questions up to like 10, depending on my memory of my own questionnaire. But basically, ice cream cake or real cake, your preferred pizza topping.
Sausage.
If you eat boxed pizza or boxed macaroni and cheese, is it the classic like tube shaped? The shapes like SpongeBob or Dora the Explorer, or shells?
It's SpongeBob, absolutely.
Okay, that's a good answer. Thank you. Your favorite breakfast cereal, like sugary, like thing you'd eat as a kid on Saturday morning?
Oh man, Captain Crunch.
Okay, fair answer. Your feelings towards cottage cheese, love it or hate it?
Hate it.
Yeah, there's usually very little in between. No one's like, oh, I'm kind of like friends with cottage cheese. No, you either like despise it because just texturally, and it's just like a gross looking food.
Water. It's lumpy. It's
tough
lumpy
to love.
Water.
It's hard to love.
It's brutal.
I personally like it, but then follow-up question to that one is, if you do like cottage cheese, do you like it on fruit, which I think is ridiculous, or do you like it on
fruit? You have to put fruit
That's
in
ridiculous.
in the cottage cheese.
Whoever decided making that, it just makes the texture worse. I don't think they go together. I eat it on either toast, which makes a lot of sense, or on Triscuits, which there's some pretty good flavored Triscuits. Or last night I had some on some Wheat Thins. That makes much more sense. It's a cheese. Cheese goes well with like savory stuff. Why would
it's a lumpy water. It's lumpy water. It's disgusting.
That's disgusting. Completely valid opinion, so that's fine. But those are the core ones. I mean, beyond that, there's others like how do you feel about cilantro?
It's in the teeth. It's messy. I don't eat it.
But are you one of the people that believes it tastes like soap or real? Or like it just has, because it tastes like soap to me. It tastes gross. It's always tasted gross to me.
Nah, I don't want it. Keep your leafy greens.
You're kind of neutral to cilantro. Okay. It's just like an offensive taste to me in general. And I think it's that way for a lot of people.
That's interesting. I've never heard of cilantro being offensive.
Really? A lot of people, they say it's like a genetic thing where some people, it tastes like soap to them.
You have a sensitive palate,
I guess. But so that pretty much rounds off my questionnaire, and then if I can think of any others in the moment. But the official correct answers are ice cream cake, because it's opinion, but it's not really opinion. Like if you answer real cake, the tubes macaroni and cheese, that you like cottage cheese on fruit, then I like kind of just don't trust you. Oh, and your cereal. If your cereal is like regular Cheerios,
like Raisin Bran.
Well, I eat Raisin Bran. I like it, but if that's your cereal as a kid, then it's a little questionable.
The kid is really trying to keep himself regular.
Yeah, like it's the intent is like
100%.
The intent is your grape nuts or something. The intent is your
100% bran flakes.
Yeah, but the official correct answer for cereal is Cinnamon Toast Crunch, which is just objectively the best cereal that's ever been created.
You have some very specific tastes.
I mean, acceptable in the realm is Captain Crunch, Cocoa Puffs, Lucky Charm. Any of those are acceptable answers.
Actually, Crunch Berries is the acceptable Captain Crunch.
Pretty good. Also, Golden Grams was one of my favorites. Very underrated, I think. A little under the radar.
Too big.
Golden Grams?
Yeah. Golden Grams are like, it's like one. You get one on a spoon.
That's not true. Their main flaw is that they turn soggy, like literally upon hitting the milk. They're like a packing peanut. Like they dissolve in milk pretty much.
All right. So when you eat cereal, do you consistently add milk? So it's not just one big swimming pool of milk. You know what I'm saying?
If you're adding milk, it'd be more of a swimming pool.
No, but you go like a full bowl of cereal and a half bowl of milk, so you can kind of keep some of them crunchy.
Oh, I understand. I'm a minimalist with milk. I try to get the bare minimum amount to like get it done. But I put it all in I put it all in the beginning. I don't add milk later.
All right, so you're one shot.
One shot.
You either guess right or you ruined the morning.
Well, the real travesty is for some people who put the milk in first, which is just a baffling decision.
That is absurd.
It makes no sense. No sense at all. But some
like putting the ice in second when you pour a drink.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So anyway, what are we talking about today here, Bob?
I mean, this is a good transition into my brother-in-law. So my brother-in-law yesterday texted me. I talked about let me rephrase that. I stumped for Joe Mauer's Hall of Fame status on the last episode. And so unbeknowingly to me, I have now attached myself at the hip with the Joe Mauer Hall of Fame train.
Okay. So
he had been texting me back and forth and tells me he would take Yadier Molina all day over Joe Mauer. Yadi's the better the catcher, the more Hall of Fame worthy catcher. So I threw it out on Twitter, and obviously a poor poll wording on my end, but
yeah, it was nonsensical. Your question made no sense. It was just like
intentionally,
hey,
it works out. Intentionally vague because I genuinely want to know. I want to know like who do you got? Do you have Joe Mauer or do you have Yadier Molina? And looking him up this morning. So let me give you some stats before you answer here.
Please,
I won't tell you who's who, but both were rookies in 2004 at the age of 21. All right. Yadier Molina has played 1,983 games. Joe Mauer 1,858. So roughly 70 game difference. At bats, they're 40 at bats apart. Plate appearances, Mauer has 300 more, 7,900 to 7,600. Career batting average, Yadi 282, Mauer 306. Career hits, Yadi 1,963, Mauer 2,123. It's about 160 more. Runs, Yadi 701, Mauer 1,018. Home runs, Yadi 156, Mauer 143. Runs batted in, 916 for Yadi, Mauer 923. Doubles, Yadi 379, Mauer 428. Triples, Yadi.
All right, we got to wrap this up.
No.
Triples are the most irrelevant stat in baseball. Triples are just opportunistic doubles.
I got my last one. Walks, Yadi 507, Mauer 936.
Wow, that's a lot more walks.
It's a lot more. And then strikeouts, but Yadi strikeouts 782 to Mauer's 1,034.
Interesting.
So OPS for Yadi 738, Mauer 827.
It's a big difference there.
Yeah. I am still stumping for the better career, better catcher guy I want on my team for the length of his career because they both only played for one team With this correlation worked out a lot better than it did just on a whim talking to my brother-in-law. But I'm taking Joe Mauer.
Why?
He's a staple in my lineup. I've never looked at Yadi as an offensive threat, even though he's had good offensive years.
So it sounds like everything you're about to say is completely without like any real evidence or reason. Just you're going with just you. I think like him better.
No, I've got stats pulled up. I think
steer me in the evidence-based direction here. Give me some actual reasons.
Peak Joe Mauer for me. Peak Joe Mauer, 2006 to 2010. So in 2006, he had 347, 07, 293, 328, 365. He won the MVP in 2009 and 327. For those years, his OPS is in the 8s, 9s, and then he has 1,031. He's just, I think, his peak prime of his career. I mean, he is a middle of the lineup, Gold Glove catcher, MVP caliber, batting title every year. He's in the running for the batting title. Like, you just don't get that out of the catching position. I mean, if you've got to take a hitting catcher, he's the guy you take it. I don't think Yadi's ever been that guy. He's always been the defensive guy. Correct. I'm not going to knock him for being the defensive player, but you got lineup. There's a lot of good defensive catchers. I think.
Are there?
I think there are. I think there's very capable defensive backups. Usually your backup catcher is a defensive guy. So I think catcher's a premium position. If you get offensive output out of that position, that's value. That's extreme value, I think, in the big leagues. And Mauer is, like I said, peak Mauer, which I think he hit his peak before Yadi. So I'll go to Yadi's stats, and I think he starts to peak a little bit. He makes his first All-Star game in 2009, so a little bit after Mauer, and he's obviously still pretty relevant now.
You lose me here. So which one are you picking?
I got Joe Mauer. I just want to give both sides. I want to give both sides with Yadi.
Okay, so Mauer's your better hitting guy. Now, when you factor in the fact that he hit 365, 320, like way above his career average, did he just have bigger peaks and bigger valleys? I mean,
he definitely fell off quicker. He definitely, once he hit the that 2014 season, he goes from 324 to 277. Like, he definitely he broke down quick.
And then he wasn't even a catcher his last how many years?
He wasn't really catching his that's basically when he stopped catching is 2014. He did not catch. He did not catch after 2013.
And when did he retire?
2018.
Okay. So how many of his career seasons did he catch? What's the number?
1, 2, 4.
Yeah, count it out. Really take your time.
10 years. He's a 10-year starting catcher.
Out of 15 total?
Out of 15 years, yeah. He's an all-star. He's a 3-time Gold Glover. He's a 5-time Silver Slugger. 6-time all-star.
Okay. I mean, I don't have a horse in this race. I don't particularly care.
You need a horse in this race. If you're going to be in the discussion.
I think Yadier Molina deserves credit for being an excellent defensive catcher, which I think provides more value to your team than does being a mediocre average catcher and a better.
We're talking hitter. Gold Glover. Gold Glove catcher, Joe Mauer.
Yeah, but Gold Glove doesn't mean anything. Gold Glove is a very irrelevant, highly politicized award. I mean,
is it though?
It is. Yeah. I mean, you start to look back at some of the numbers of guys who've gotten Gold Gloves compared to other players in the league, and you start to scratch your head. There's a lot of arguments that it's like, why does this guy get a Gold Glove? It's not clearly based on a lot of the metrics. I think this was discussed in Keith Law's book, but I don't want to smart baseball, but I can't remember where that long discussion was. But there's not a good reason for a lot of the Gold Gloves that were doled out. So I don't think that's a good measure, especially now with the advanced analytics. I don't think it's a good measure of who was actually an exceptional fielder. I don't think you're gonna have any bad fielders on those Gold Glove lists, but it was really sort of just like a little more of a popularity contest than people were led to believe.
So, all right. So I'll piggyback off that a little bit. You know, catchers, I'm just going off of his caught stealing percentage here. Like Yadi won the Gold Glove in 2011. He only caught 29% of runners stealing. I would say that's well below average. Now he definitely has years in here where he's over 50%.
Do you know that's well below average, or are you just guessing?
I am making an educated guess, just based on his numbers.
Okay.
Based on his numbers.
So you're guessing. 29% is definitely not below average for the big leagues. Let me pull that number up. But Yadier Molina's stats are skewed because he gets way less chances than other people. Do you know why? Because they don't run on him.
Is that a respect thing?
Do you run on catchers that you know are going to throw you out?
Well, I'm saying, is that a respect for him, or has he always had pitchers that are quick to the plate? Like, is that a Cardinals philosophy? I don't know.
No, it's knowing his reputation. I mean, the more runners you start throwing out from the outfield, the fewer people will take that extra chance where it's iffy. And it's the same thing with him. This is a known, like he had a significantly lower percentage of attempts against him because just of his reputation of being a high caught stealing percentage guy. Now, with these as many different pitchers as he catches, I mean, obviously it's still just a rotation of his one team, but he's going to be the constant variable in all that. There's always going to be some pitchers that hold better than others, but people are, if it's iffy, they're not going to take the chance as much against him as some other catchers. I mean, that's a well-known. So if you look at his chances per year, it's significantly lower than other catchers.
Well, I'm looking at him right now. I'm just going to take 2007. Mauer threw out 53%. This is his best year. He had 45 attempts against him. And 2007 for Yadi, he threw out 54% and had 50 attempts. So basically even.
Wait, who threw out 54% in what year?
Yadi in 2007.
Yeah, Yadier Molina is the career leader in caught stealing percentage. 40%, which is absurd. Where'd you get that 21%, 29% number?
I'm looking on Baseball Reference.
Yeah,
for 2011, I'm saying this is just 1 year.
Yeah, which is insane considering then if his career caught stealing percentage is 40%, he had like a 50% year to make up for that one, which is insane.
Yeah, he's had a 64% year his second year in the league. He's had high years. There's no doubt he's a good defensive catcher. Well, I'm weighing more on his offensive prowess being less than Mauer. Like Mauer makes up. I don't think the discrepancy between their defensive talents is bigger than their discrepancy in their offensive talents. I think Mauer outshines him more offensively than Yadi outshines him Mauer defensively.
But you don't really have any good way of quantifying these differences.
I have my expert opinion of Joe Mauer.
Just
I don't know why I'm stumping for Joe Mauer because I grew up a White Sox fan and I'm not very much a Twins fan, but I can respect Joe Mauer.
I mean, of course you respect Joe Mauer. I mean, he was a fantastic, Hall of Fame worthy player.
Great sideburns, great chops.
I mean, Hall of Fame sideburns for sure, but
no doubt.
I don't know. I mean, I think you probably need to revisit this conversation in like a month and come back with some facts.
When I'm still locked in my home, digging deep on Joe Mauer.
Yeah, stats. For sure. I mean, it's hard to compare the two things. And when you start looking at things like defensive runs saved and some of the metrics that the Pirates employed when they were sort of ahead of the curve with as far as deploying catchers. Yeah, back in like 2000, it was like 12, 13. And this is based on that book. Did you read it called Big Data Baseball?
I did not.
So, yeah, I mean, they talk at length about how many runs they and essentially games they won because of their catcher framing stuff, which they were sort of the forefront of that. So when you start when that shed a lot of light on the value of framing for catchers. And when you start looking at that, it's really hard to say, like, they were making up a lot of runs and wins and value to their team from catching. So when you start to look at it through that lens, you're like, is the difference between 280 and 309 or whatever lifetime making the difference in all those runs that Yadi probably saved, not only from his defensive, his pitch framing, and I don't know exactly how good of a framer Yadi was, but also his caught stealing percentage, and then the amount of runners he deterred from going, which was reflected in just how good of a thrower he was. So I don't know. I don't think the offensive numbers back that up where he's going to be better overall than Yadi as far as like runs value added to his team.
Give me the MVP.
Okay. So what else we got here, Coach?
Well, here's some we were talking a little bit off air before we got on. Giving this is something you probably have more experience with, but giving somebody hope relative to their situation in baseball or where they fall in baseball. I'm going to read an email that was sent to you just so you can give a little bit of how you responded.
No, I'm going to read my own. I'm going to read my own email.
I want to interviewing you. All right, you read it.
I mean, well, I'm only going to read little excerpts because.
All right.
Yeah. So this is, I think, an important thing. So I'm reached out to by a lot of people who are recovering from arm injuries or surgery, or maybe they're trying to make a comeback in baseball, because I sort of did all those things myself. Right. So I'm, I guess, in some respects seen as a approachable person who has done that stuff. And so people will bounce ideas off me, and probably once or twice a year, I'll get an email from someone who says, hey, I was a high school player and I'm like 4 years removed from baseball, but I really got the itch and I want to come back. Do you think I should do it? Do you think I can do it? Here's how hard I throw, or here's my situation. And in most situations, I actually tell these people no, that they should not. And this is a weird thing. And so I got one recently. And this was a different situation. So there's two different ones that I'm going to fill you in here today, because again, I feel weird about this because I was the guy who always like kept going, and I always believed in myself. That was the number one thing that sort of made my career what it was, which I think I got a lot more out of myself than I should have, was that I always just believed in myself. And so then it's weird for me to say like, well, I don't believe in you to another person, or that you shouldn't have that same belief in yourself. But here's the thing. I mean, have you heard much of the podcast is called, it's by Mike Rowe. It's called The Way I Heard It.
Oh yeah. 5 minutes. I listen to all of them.
Yeah. It's like in like 4 minutes is a ZipRecruiter commercial.
Awesome.
But yeah, Mike's an awesome guy. But he talks about, he gave this speech somewhere. Maybe it was like a college, a commencement speech or something, but he was talking about not following your dreams, rather following opportunity. He thinks the following your dreams is a crock. Have you heard him kind of give that talk?
I've heard the premise.
Yeah. So he's talked about this in other podcasts where he's been interviewed, and he's like, look, not everyone can, like, just because you love golf doesn't mean you can make a living at golf. Just because you love X doesn't mean you can make a living at it. Your passion can be different than what makes you money and keeps you financially stable and builds a good life for you and your family. And he says, economic stability and all this other stuff is for most people is going to live independent of their passions. And he referenced a guy who owns a septic tank company. He's like, clearly that's not his passion. He said, but this guy saw an opportunity in his town that this service was needed and he could do it better. And he had a passion for business and for customer service and for all the things that made his septic company really take off. And he built a great life for himself. And now he can play golf. He can do all the other things that he's passionate about because he has the time and the financial resources, and, success. It gives you time and money to hunt for things that you really love. Right. And I think that's a really important message, that not all of us, and, I'm a baseball guy, you're a baseball guy. We can't all make our living in baseball necessarily. When we retire, if you don't make it to the major leagues and all that. So following sort of that thing, so I got a question recently, and this is a guy from, I think he's from he's from the US, but he says, hey, I have a question. I live in a place where there isn't any baseball team, but I look at my stats in pitching, miles per hour, walks per K, looking the results of at bats with no hitter, and in hitting projected distance, and they are really good. I'm a right-handed pitcher, switch hitter. Do you think that with no high school references, I can play college baseball? So before I tell you what I told him, what would you tell this person? So this sounds like, to sort of sum this up, because the email was a little bit wonky in its wording. He's like, it really loves baseball. He's practicing. He can go to the field, take BP, hit a ball pretty far, throw a ball pretty hard, but he doesn't have a team. And he's not getting like in-game reps, right? So he's definitely going to lack a lot of the baseball IQ stuff that really important and vital. So what would you tell this person?
For sure, he could play college baseball. What level? I don't know. I don't know. No idea. I mean, there's got to be more context than that, right? But he could play college baseball. There's plenty of schools that I'd like to know where he's from, but without knowing if he's living in Siberia, I think he could play college baseball. Now,
Siberia State has a pretty good program, I've heard.
Yeah, it's a state, northern.
Heavy uniforms. They're made of ox skin, so they're not as fast as they'd like to be, but they got to hit the ball far, just jog. That's their thing.
He could. I don't think there's a reason he couldn't play college baseball, except if his talent dictates that he can't, or if he's got no tools. I mean, if he's throwing 50 miles an hour and he's an 18-year-old kid, you're not playing college baseball, buddy. But I think the dream of college baseball is much more realistic than if this kid was just emailing you out of the blue saying, "Hey, I want to play professional baseball. Like, send me the blueprint."
Yeah, that's the next email I'll get to. But yeah, so I told him, I said, look, a Division I school or like a 4-year school is almost certainly a no. But a junior college, you could probably get a chance. If you can throw hard enough, and I told him probably, mid 80s or whatever, because he's going to have to outrun his deficiencies. If a coach knows this kid doesn't have the baseball IQ that you get from just playing, I mean, you can have a very severe lack of situational awareness. And you see this with younger players. If you get like an in-house player and he suddenly gets pulled up to a really competitive travel team, or a kid that maybe didn't really play high competitive travel ball, and now he's suddenly on varsity baseball, they can get out there and be really wide-eyed really quick.
Yeah.
When the game is it's really fast, college, and going from no high school baseball to college baseball, which is a much faster game, even if it's a low level junior college or low level D3, it's still a much faster game. So you can really get stuck out there like, oh, I can throw a ball hard, but like, I don't know where to go when this ball is hit to me, kind of stuff. And that happens really fast. But yeah, I agree. He could find a place somewhere if he has the physical tools, but he's going to have to outrun his sort of mental or situational deficiencies. Mental is probably not the right word. But so this other email was really, it was insane. So I got this guy who emailed me, this was like 3 years ago. And he said, hey, I was like a pretty good high school pitcher. I threw like 88 or something. I think he went to like Georgia Tech or somewhere actually legitimate, but didn't end up playing there, had some like personal issues, and didn't play at all during college. Now he's 25. So also like another 4 years removed, and says, I really believe in myself. I think I can do this. I want to come back and jump into any ball. And, I'm going to train to do this. And do you think I should do this? And I told him no. I said, look, no team's going to sign you. Almost no team is going to sign you. If you throw 100 miles per hour, someone will sign you. If you throw 95 miles per hour, no one's going to sign you. And I said, here's why. Because in independent ball, you have to get outs right away. They need to put fans in the stands. You get a 2-week trial, essentially, when you get a contract. And if you don't play really well, they get rid of you and they get someone else, because they have tons and tons of players to choose from. And I said, in affiliated ball, they have a lot of guys that throw 92, 93, 94, 95. Why would they want a guy who has literally no baseball experience above high school, unless you can do something that no one else in the whole world can do? Again, like this is like the rookie, and like the high school coach, threw 97 from the left side. That's a little different than throwing 95 from the right side, and who knows if this kid could ever even get to 95. That was his goal. So I told him realistically, no. Like, why would an independent team look for a guy like him? Like you don't have any of the baseball acumen, the baseball IQ, the baseball strategy and knowledge that everyone else does. I said, look, right now you're a 25-year-old who throws 88, and maybe in a year you're a 26-year-old who throws 92. Guess how many college seniors are leaving their school undrafted who throw 88 to 92? a ton, literally tons of them. There's tons of them. And all of them would be better picks than you because they have 4 years of college baseball, all that knowledge, all that training, all that discipline. Their bodies are in better shape. All of that stuff they have over you. So if I was an independent coach, why on earth would I choose this guy who hasn't thrown a ball competitively since high school over all of these guys who are both younger, have similar talent, and have so much more baseball education? I said, it just wouldn't make sense as a manager for anyone to give you a chance. I said, unless you throw like literally close to 100. And he's like, no, 94, 95. I'm like, dude, it's crawling with guys who throw 94 in all levels of pro baseball. They don't need another one. They'll get their pick of them. So he basically lashes out as he replies back. He says, this is, and granted, this email was worded politely. I gave him lots of reasons, and he had a lot of other stuff that I had to address too. And he basically lashed out and said I didn't know what I was talking about, and that indie ball was only about velocity, and if you threw hard enough, you'd get a chance, and blah, 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 blah. And I felt conflicted about it, and I bounced off a bunch of people, and they all agreed that this person was, I don't know, a little bit very delusional. But the point was, my advice was realistic. It was just realistic. If you're 25, you haven't pitched since high school, a college, like these independent and affiliated scouts and coaches are not stupid. They need players that are actually good at baseball, not just throw a ball off the wall. And they will prioritize all of that experience level above someone who doesn't have any of it. I mean, who else wouldn't do that? It's like, hey, hire me. I'm a genius. Okay, well, do you have any relevant accounting experience? If you want to be an accountant, do you have any relevant, lawyering experience? If you want to be a lawyer? No, I'm just a genius. So just hire me. It's like, that doesn't.
It doesn't sound like we're talking about a genius.
No. So anyway, so 2 years later,
he's listening.
No. So 2 years later, he emails me, and he basically says, I could read it, and I appreciate this. And I responded politely back, but he said, we spoke a couple years ago. You made some suggestions, questioned some of my opinions, and I got defensive. I want to sincerely apologize for lashing out, blah, blah, blah. He said, I didn't realize it at the time, obviously, but looking back, you were right, and forced me to rethink my previously held beliefs, which I'm now thankful for. So I don't know what happened. I didn't inquire, but I mean, it's a weird. So anyway,
he's in the big leagues, I'll tell you that much.
No. And so, but this is it's a relevant conversation today because more and more players think they can do this. And we touched on this on a previous episode, that you can't just throw a ball into a net for 2 or 3 years. And all right, I throw as hard as other guys in Division I or pro baseball now and expect to really do well in baseball or to even get a chance at all in baseball. Like, people look at on TV and they look at the radar gun numbers and they think, if I'm the same as that, then I can play at that same level. And it just isn't true.
It's not true. The velocity model is definitely true in college. If this kid was emailing you and he was 17 years old and had no high school baseball experience, but it hit 88, yeah, dude, you're going on to the next level. Like,
yeah, sure.
Make a video of yourself. But I mean, you've played with guys. I've played with guys that threw 98 to 100 in independent ball, and these guys can't get back to affiliate. They can't get people out. They can't get to affiliated ball, or they were in affiliated ball. They can't get back. Like, it's not all velocity. It's just not, dude. It's just not. I don't know what more experience you need. Like, there's very few guys that run up the ladder to the big leagues that just close their eyes and throw the ball as hard as they can. I can't think of one.
It's
unless you're a closer.
A little bit. It's difficult. And one of the things I think that's so difficult about it is that as you climb the ladder, hitters are better at not swing at stuff. And that's how you doing there, Robert?
I'm good. Am I here?
You back? Yeah, we lost you for a minute. So I tried to talk to, keep it going. This is one of the hazards of live streaming these, I suppose.
You're a pro at this.
We haven't had any interwebs issues yet, but I'm sure we will. Sorry. So continue your thoughts. I think we missed pretty much all of it.
You can't close your eyes, throw to a general area as hard as you can and expect to be good at baseball. Like, There's guys that like myself that I step in the box after so many years out. Like, I'm not going to chase like I'll chase. Hitters are going to chase if you've got stuff that is near the zone, but I'm not just going to stand up there and swing at every fastball you throw, regardless of where it's at. Like I'll have somewhat of a clue. And it's the pitchability. And I don't think the guys that tout velocity as like the number one indicator of pitching success believe that it's only velocity.
No, I don't.
But they understand that there's pitchability involved. But the delusion that if you throw 92, like you're in the top, percentile of people in the world with your arm talent.
If you say arm talent, I need to find a way. Does anyone know, does Zoom have the ability to slap a person through you can
mute me.
Interwebs?
You just mute me. You throw 92 is hard. Like you throw 92 miles an hour. You throw very, very hard. You just don't throw hard enough to intimidate a guy who's getting paid to hit. Like that guy gets paid to hit that. And if you throw 98, you're in a different bracket. You're in the elite bracket. If you throw under 98, like you're in the bracket of you need to know how to pitch, and you can't just get a shot because you throw a ball.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where even if you do throw 98, guys are still going up there. They're not just like ambushing every pitch. They're still trying to see the ball, and they're still very selective. Like you see, there's like a defensiveness in hitters when guys throwing really hard, where they're trying to see the ball and they're being a little more deliberate about when they do swing. And so when someone's really wild, they're not just swinging into the air trying to catch up to it. They're waiting. They're trying to see what's up, right? And so behavior changes of hitters is part of it too. But I mean, I think one of the places that you see this, and it's not really publicized that often, is that when really hard throwing high school players get drafted, now they're suddenly in pro ball, many of them get absolutely destroyed in their first couple of years of pro ball. And some of them never recover. And that was their story. They got $4 million and they flamed out with a 7 ERA, and that was that. And that just shows you, if anything, how hard it is to make the transition from high school or college into pro baseball. I mean, so many first round picks don't make it to the majors still. And these are guys that, if you're a first round pick as a high schooler, you have just amazing stuff. If you're a first round pick as a college guy, amazing arm talent. If you're a first round pick as a college guy, you have amazing arm talent, but also very high level of skill as a pitcher, getting the best hitters in the country out, so. Right. And those guys still don't always succeed in pro ball. And so then when you're talking about, hey, I don't have either of those things necessarily, it puts you in a world of hurt. And there's a lot of examples that you just don't hear about that, high school pitcher 96 to 100 just gets shellacked because the way they pitch to high school hitters, which is I'm just going to throw it as hard as I can down the middle of the plate. And if I miss my spot, it doesn't matter what high school hitter could ever hit that. Then they go into pro ball and suddenly they do the same thing essentially, which why would they do anything different? Like you only know how to do what you know how to do, and hitters start taking it. And now suddenly this guy's he's 2-0, he's 3-1, he's 1-0. And what do hitters do? I'm here in pro ball because I can turn around 97. Okay, 2-1, I'm getting ready and see ya. And that's what happens, right?
No doubt.
Walk, double, hit by pitch, single, home run. Like that's how 3 runs happen in with good hitters. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. But I mean, how do you find the balance as someone who mentors young people? How do you find the balance, Robert, of giving people hope, but also being realistic?
I almost toss the ball back at them with, this is what you want to play Division I. Like, this is what Division I guys look like. This is what Division I guys do. This is their athletic resume. Where do you fit? Like, what boxes are you checking? I've got Division I players in my program. They're also the hardest working guys. They're also the guys I see the most. And then I get kids that are like, well, I want to go. Like, they send me these. I ask for the list of schools, and they'll send me like a mid-major Division I. Like, guys will, instead of sending me a Big Ten school, they'll send me a MAC school. And I'm like, where, the kid in Big Ten is not that much better, if at all, better than the kid at a MAC school. Like, you're not you're not grasping the reality of kids in the Big Ten don't throw 92 and kids in the MAC throw 82 because they're not a Power 5 conference. Like MAC school makes it to College World Series, like Kent State, they're consistently top 25. Like these schools are good. So where do you fall? Like how often are you working out? Baseball is essentially for 99% of the kids, baseball is not a lifestyle. And I try to convey that, like, you're not doing enough. Like you think you're doing enough, but you're not. I use myself as an example for them, myself currently as a 33-year-old today. And I tell them, I'm like, I work out 5 days a week. I'm like, how many of you guys work out 5 days a week? And I'm not even training. That's what I tell them, I'm not working out towards anything. I just trying not to lose all of my athleticism as I get older. I want to stay in good shape, whatever reason anybody works out. I'm like, but you guys are trying to gain weight. You're 150 pounds. You're trying to gain, 30. I told you to put on 30 pounds of muscle and we'll talk. And you work out twice a week. Like what are we talking about? You're not even close to where you're supposed, the work ethic you're supposed to have. So I guess how do I give hope is I give the blueprint of this is what you have to do. Like you want to, and it's for me, it's only talking about college. Like the kids that we have in college, I want to get a shot at pro ball that I talk to on a consistent basis. It's the same thing. Like, what do you do well? Why do you deserve a shot? What's your elite tool? Give me something. Like, sell me here. Yeah. Here's the pen. Sell me this pen. To that famous sales pitch. You need to sell me on yourself. I can't.
Well, speaking of which, have you ever used a Papermate Inkjoy pen? They're really good pens. They're really good pens, but I get too many of them with poor quality control where there's like a little air gap in the ink where when it hits that air gap, the pen's done. Like there's no fixing it. So Papermate, if you're out there, I'm really disappointed in you. I really like your pens, but they keep failing me. And all right, so go ahead.
No, I think you hit it right on the head. Papermates are less than Bic.
No, Papermates are more than Bic, but
they have a quality control issue.
They have a quality control issue, I think. Yeah.
This is why you get a 10-pack of pens at the dollar store and you just toss the one.
God, no. These are great because they have they're a gel pen, 07, obviously, and B, they dry fast. So you're not going to get that smudgy hand, when you're writing in a notebook. I got 2 notebooks. I have a big notebook today, Bob. I got I got to collect my life in to-do lists today because I have an overwhelming amount of stuff to get done. So
I'm a legal pad. I'm a legal pad guy.
I mean, I can appreciate that, but today's a big pen day. Yeah, I think to piggyback on what you're saying, it's hard as a coach to be both honest and sympathetic and realistic and hopeful all at the same time sometimes, because kids need to know where they're at and they need to know what they need to do. Like you said, they need to know the blueprint and they need to be honest with themselves, and parents too. They need to know what a Division I player looks like, and most do not. They just don't. They see their kids successful, and it's like you could be a big fish in a really small pond. And I was like that. My high school, my county, there weren't a lot of kids throwing above 84. And so you're not getting a taste of what these high level, D1 and pro guys look like as a high schooler. I just wasn't. I was like, I'm pretty good, as far as all the teams in my county, but in the grand scheme of things, I wasn't that good, not at all. And it's hard that's why people really need to go see college games. They need to see what it looks like to play at those higher levels.
You need to see what it looks like, and you just need to all these kids are their high school 3-hitter and their high school superstar. You're not even, I don't even know if going to watch a college game does it justice for how good most of the kids on the team really are, because you're only seeing, right. You might see a kid with a bad day. You're not going to get their tools, but you see a catcher and you're a catcher, you go to a college game, a Division I game, and you're like, well, I'm the same height as this guy. He doesn't look much bigger than me. Doesn't he though? But he weighs 20 pounds more than you and he throws bullets down to second base. I know you think making it to second base on a line is good, but throwing it through to the center fielder on just a straight laser is what it's supposed to look like. And this kid does it every time. Like the gap is significant athletically for a lot of these kids. You just don't see it. And it's good for me as a guy that runs a program to have Division I guys that have signed and they're around and you can look at them. But I still think guys they look at it through that lens of, I can be as good as this guy, but you're not as good as him. And I don't know if you can't see it, I don't know how to get you to see it. I'm laying it out for you. Like, he hits the ball significantly harder. He throws it significantly harder. He weighs 40 pounds more than you. Like, he looks like a grown man. You still look like a high school kid.
Yeah.
Where's the disconnect? And you're right. It's hard to balance I think honesty is just the way to go. Just throw it at him. Like, this is going to hurt a little bit, but you're not a Division I player. Not yet. You could be. I am hopeful that you will be, but you're not. And the sooner you either take hold of that and try to get to that level, the better chance you're going to have of playing there. But it's probably too late, or you're getting a late start if you're asking me. And it wasn't the goal to start.
Yeah. That's true. And one of the big things, I think your point is a really good one, because the consistency is what really matters. And that's what they say about every minor leaguer. Like, every minor leaguer can essentially do what a big leaguer does, but he can't do it every pitch, every at bat. And that's largely true. And that's from mental factors and preparation factors and lifestyle and all these different factors, whatever. And that's the same thing there. You're right. You could go to a college game, watch a catcher for one game and say, I could do pretty much everything he did today. But you can't do everything he did under pressure for 50 games in a row at the quality that he's doing it every single time, the consistency. Like, every high schooler who can play college baseball could maybe throw a 2-0 pop time once in a while. And I'm saying 2-0 because everyone thinks they throw a 1-8, but like no one does. You could throw a 2-0 when the pitch is like up in the zone, when you got a left-handed hitter in there and like everything's right, you're feeling yourself, it's sunny. But can you throw a 2-0 when it's raining and there's a right-handed hitter? Yeah, and you get a slider. Can you throw a 2-0 to second base? Well, the D1 guy can, and you can't. You probably can't ever do that.
Joe Mauer can.
Joe Mauer. Well, Yadi throws a 1-9 in that situation. But so I think your point is a really good one. You probably need to go watch consistently and see, all right, this guy's literally the same every day. And when you get to pro ball, they're the same every day and they're hurting constantly because you play so many games in such a short time. And that's a big separator too. Like, the catcher, his knee's killing him, his shoulder's killing him. He got hit in the nuts last night with a foul tip. He got hit in the thigh 6 pitches ago, and he has a huge throbbing bruise there. His girlfriend broke up with him, and he still throws a 1-9 every single time on a 92 mile per hour slider in the dirt. Like, that's the difference, Yeah. And that's hard. Sure. And that's really, really hard to do. It's really hard to do.
It's hard to convey.
Yeah, because you don't see that stuff. And that's the thing. And that's exactly why I think your point was so good, is that you don't see that. You don't know that the catcher, his ankles are killing him. You don't know that he's got some family problems going on. You don't know that his thumb is borderline broken from a sinker the previous night from some guy that got called up to his level and threw him a turbo sinker he'd never seen, before, whatever. Like, there's so much stuff going on with players that you don't see, that they still do the job the exact same way because they're that good. And they learn to block that stuff out, and no one really has excuses at those levels. It's a very different thing that it's hard for people to understand sometimes. So, Robert, we've come to the end. We keep running through these episodes fast. We had a little bit of audio glitch. For everyone out there, I'm sorry. My links, if you're from my email list, my links to Twitter didn't work today. I think my YouTube link didn't work. We were live on both platforms, but I really failed you with my linking. So
you did.
I'll be better. I'm terrible, but we're still getting some of the kinks worked out. But I know my audio quality was bad last episode. It's definitely better today. Still kind of getting through this. I think we're bold, Robert, in this live streaming thing. This is a scary thing to do.
I think we sound great.
Well, last time I definitely had audio problems, but I fixed it today. I got a lot of gear going, but
You're very professional.
We got to ad lib. We got to ad lib this, and that's it's not easy to do. Like there's no editing. There's no editing. You know, you accidentally.
I miss my calling of just live television star.
Well, you tried to be on was it The Bachelor, or what was the show you were trying to get on for a while?
I was called to be on The Bachelor. I said no. That was like a running joke in the locker room.
But weren't you trying to be on like the cover of Men's Health or something else too?
Oh yeah. That was the every man, like they just put a regular person on there.
Yeah.
I stumped for that. So you need something to pass the time, Dan. If you don't have goals, what do you have?
Yeah, you have a lot of pipe dreams, like being mayor of Chicago, which will never happen because you're
not
too
a pipe
soft.
dream. That's a fact.
You're mentally soft to get it done.
You gotta wait out the I don't want to be mayor right now. This is a nightmare going on. I can't even leave the house.
This is when we need leadership more than ever. You've seen the leadership in the White House. He's up there just confusing everybody.
Oh, Here we go.
Yesterday, Trump was questioning whether he was implying whether nurses or someone in the hospital were stealing masks.
No.
Did you listen to him talk?
Your mind reading. Mind reading is not an acceptable form of
you can
discussion.
Imply things very clearly. He was implying
I told you to send me the link.
He was implying that someone was stealing masks. He also is incredulous that some of these
don't use these big words.
He's like, some of these hospitals have 2 ventilators. Now they need 30,000 ventilators. Why would you ever need that many? Well, it's because states are trying to get ahead of this so they have what they need in case stuff gets really, really bad, which is trending now.
Relax, Dan. Why is
how you
New York had ventilators in a warehouse that they just weren't using?
No, dude, Cuomo just talked about this. He said, yes, we finally got the ventilators we asked for from the government, and they're sitting in a distribution place because New York is enormous, and we need to send them out when they request them. How does that not make sense to people?
Can we establish that Cuomo, his brother, is the lead anchor on CNN? He's the governor of New York.
Why would there be a
Something's not
conspiracy
right there.
Bobby, why would someone want to hoard ventilators? Why would that why do we always err on the side of conspiracy or some sort of malintent? If I was a governor, if you were the governor of a state, wouldn't you want to have centralized supplies that you could dole out to the people that really need them? That's like what a hospital does. They have Band-Aids so they can bandage you up if you're bleeding. They send it to
There's no such where's this he had them though. He had them in a warehouse. They were there already.
My point is, this is not what good leaders do. They don't just try to tear down other governors who are trying to make good decisions to keep their people safe. This makes no sense to me.
But these governors are making it. I'm saying, no, you're right. That's the point. That's
why. No, why is Trump politicizing need for ventilators?
So are these governors. Everybody's politicizing it. I'm not going to jump on
requesting equipment is not politicized.
No, they've been politicizing it as well.
You're just using that as a blanket term.
They're both wrong. They're both wrong. You shouldn't politicize it. It shouldn't be political at all. It should be we need help. Can you help us? And we helped you. So recognize that we helped you.
Why does the leader need recognition that we helped you?
He doesn't need a thank you.
It's so petty.
He doesn't need a thank you. He doesn't need a thank you.
He just said he's not going to call governors potentially because if they're not nice to him.
That's words. No, that's not
literally his words.
That's not the transcript. Show me the transcript. Hold on. All right. So let me transition before we leave. Because I wanted to ask you this before we jumped into Trump. We could go on all day. What's the one thing you do miss about that? I know you're still out and about a little bit in DC, but what's the one thing you're missing about the outside world?
I don't know. Well, I miss my family. I have not been able to see them. I literally just moved to DC and I've been under this self-isolation for almost half the time I've lived here.
Yeah, that
sucks. I'm not getting to really experience the places. The weather's turning nice. And I was just starting to get into a routine with getting back into the weight room and stuff like that. And that's been clearly disrupted. So I just felt like I was starting to finally get settled here and trend in the right direction. And it's disappointing that I'm now kind of very limited in what I can do and experience as I've really finished outfitting my apartment, figuring out all the stuff that you have to do. I mean, you know how hard that is sometimes.
Oh yeah.
I didn't appreciate how much just figuring out where do I go to the grocery store? where do I get all these essentials? It's very different in a city, like, because I don't have a car here. When you're like, all right, I'm going to walk here. I'm going to metro here. I can get this thing here. I can't get this thing there. It's very different. You have to like know your stores, like know where you get stuff.
Adulthood sucks.
Well, it's different than being in a suburb. Like the suburb is just like fundamentally different. And so I was just starting to like get through all that. And now here I am. It's like, all right, obviously I still have to know all that, but it's like I only go 2 places, which I'll go to WeWork because there's a location where there's literally almost 0 people there. There's like 3 people working there. So I have 100 feet of space between the next person. So I can go work and not be in my place and not be at risk of anything. But that's pretty much it. And I just jog and walk. So I just miss getting into the routine and being able to experience the city. What about you?
I miss gambling. There's no sports on. There's no sports. I'm like relegated to harness racing. It's just, it's tough.
The horses can still get out there when they put like mannequins on them.
No, the jockeys, it's like, apparently they don't care about these guys. Just go ride them. We need something to gamble on.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, thank you for listening. So if you're listening here live, we appreciate you tuning into Twitter, YouTube, and for your patience with me giving you the wrong links if you're on my email list. If you're listening in podcast land, we are doing this every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 a.m. on Twitter and YouTube. So feel free to tune in live if you want to catch the show live. And we will be putting these episodes out usually later in the same day on iTunes, Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Although it's probably only those 2, right? Does anyone listen to podcasts anywhere else but iTunes and Spotify? Maybe Stitcher, but Stitcher's had issues, so I don't think we're on there yet.
Not yet.
Not yet, but definitely share this with your friends. This is your new favorite podcast if you weren't aware yet. And
it's my favorite podcast.
It's my favorite podcast. But thanks again, and we will see you here on Wednesday. Robert, sign them off.
Dan, to everybody, we'll see you Wednesday.